Alrighty, Milsurp Garage back as promised with the Winchester Model 61. Here it is. I got notes, I got some info, and I'm going to show you this guy. Now, in these 22 circles, these vintage 22s, this one is known as a killer. Everybody loves this one. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's got a nice checkered steel butt plate. It's got a beautiful stock. It's a takedown. Lovely bluing. All right. Let's get into it a little bit with this guy. Discuss some of its history here. Let's just burn through it. Manufactured from 1932 to 1963. This one is estimated at 1954. Didn't have the best records going on back then, Winchester, for some reason. Designer, guess who? T.C. Johnson. How was it? Thomas Crossley? Crockley? Forgot his name. T.C. Johnson. Let's just call him T.C. We're like family now. We know T.C. Johnson because of the 1903, the Winchester 1903 that I just did a video on. We talk about him. He was the guy that was charged to make a semi-automatic rifle and skirt Browning's patents. And, he made that shotgun, the Widowmaker, we called it. Remember that? Because he couldn't put a bolt handle on it. But he did make the Winchester Model 12. But let's see, he had some help. I don't want to get sued. He had some help from Frank Burton and Harry Crockett, who were, firearms designers that worked for Winchester back then that helped him out. So you needed a team of guys when you got rid of John Browning. If you would have just kept John Browning, you just needed one guy. Now that he's gone, you need a team. So the checkered butt plate here was only available from 32 to 57. So that's why my 54 still has it. From 57 to 63, that changed to a plastic butt plate here. And the grooved trigger, you see in here, the trigger is grooved. It's a groovy trigger. The grooved trigger was from 1950 plus. So I got those things out of my Winchester book. It fits. Just fires shorts, longs, and long rifles. This guy, and it's the capacity is 20 shorts, 16 longs, 14 long rifles. Okay, that's my just basic info. Let's look at some of the stuff that this gun has. Some interesting, weird features. Then we'll get back into a little bit more of the history. So, some interesting features are the magazine tube. This is, by the way, the smoothest, most beautiful magazine tube. If you notice, there's something different here that the others didn't have. What is it? It's the material. That's right. It's steel. So this did get a little bit of criticism here and there that the tube being made out of steel, it would lock up or rust or whatever that the brass tubes wouldn't be able to do. But the steel tube was stronger and maintained its shape better without getting little dings and dents. But if it's getting rusty in here, I mean, you obviously don't have oil in here. If it's getting that wet or whatever, corroded in here, you're doing something wrong. So I don't think it's a big deal to make that out of steel. It's round-barreled, of course. We'll get to that a little bit later. We'll get to it later. Let's delve into some more of this information here. Now, the thing is, okay, Thomas Crossley Johnson. Winchester was very late getting into the hammerless pump game. Why was that? That was because their 1803, the 1890, which we did a video on. You saw that. That was the exposed hammer pump. That thing that John Browning designed did so well for them that Savage was into this hammerless thing. You know, this hammerless thing was big back then. This shape might look familiar to you now, but to people back then, this Remington 870 look to a receiver wasn't something that was common. It was new to have. It was new and considered a sleek modern thing that to not have an exposed hammer. So the Savage had them in 1903, and the 1914 that we did the video on was basically that 1903, just a slightly different design with a magazine tube and not a detachable magazine. The 03 had like a detachable magazine. It was basically the same gun. So that Savage 1914 that we did, you see how long ago they had these hammerless designs, and Winchester did not move in there. Now, why did Winchester not move in there? Well, he still had to skirt around Browning's patents, because Browning came out with a gun that looked very much like this. It was a non-exposed hammer, pump action 22. It's called the Trombone. It was made in 1922, and it was not made in this country. John Browning brought that design over the water because of his pissing match with Winchester. He brought it over the water to Fabrique Nationale. They were made in Belgium. And Johnson now, T.C. Johnson, having to make this thing now, had to do exactly what he had to do when he made the 1903. It must have been like, the same thing he had to do again, which was skirt around all those patents that Browning had got, which it was the guy from Winchester, the owner of Winchester himself, who forgot his name, but he's the guy that even coached Browning to get all these patents all the time and everything. So Browning got all these patents for the trombone, and again Johnson had to skirt around all those patents. But this time, different than the 03 was kind of quirky and had to use a proprietary round. It was Browning that was really good at just making a gun that would be able to fire anything, any different types of loads. But they couldn't do that with the 03. The 1903, this T.C. Johnson design, they had to actually have its own proprietary ammo to make sure they tailored the ammo specifically to the gun. But this time they had a little bit better luck. These things were made from 32 to 63. So 10 years after the trombone came out, it took 10 years, they came out with this thing. And 344,000 of these things were made. And so I specifically wrote something down here. Something that had to do with the feeding was called, this T.C. Johnson came up with his own idea. It was something called the T-slot arrangement. You could see the finger there popping up with the loading. Let's load her up with some snap caps, and I'll show you. This is super smooth, this guy. And we'll take a look at how the action works. Let's see. Boy, I tell you, it's not easy to make these videos. It really isn't. You got to pay attention to so much stuff. You got to have your information there. You have to maintain the audience, which I'm sure I'm terrible at. And you even have to watch how heavy you're breathing. Now watch this. Watch how beautiful this mag tube. I always tell you, I'm telling you, I got a million of these things. This is the true test on what quality it's built with. Now watch this one. The rounds are all in there now. The follower's right there, bumping right up against them. Now how easy will I be able to close this magazine tube over the rounds? One finger turn, and I'll do it again. I'll do it over and over and over and over. Every time it'll capture it. While there's other ones where every time it's and you got to twist it, and then you take up another round, you got to twist it, you go another round, you go another round, just to capture them all. But look, over and over. So you tell me there isn't you know, a way somebody's doing it right and somebody's doing it wrong. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I like to do it like this. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's watch exactly. We come around this way. Keep it straight. Where am I? All right. Let's take a look at how this thing feeds. I don't want anything shining. Let's get it looking right. And where's the first round? There it is. Hello. So moving back, it didn't even come into view. Coming forward is when it came up. And look at that, how that'll bring it right up. And look at how perfectly it goes in. It didn't even touch anything. You see the lockup was in the rear. You saw that, right? See, no round comes into view on the movement backwards, which they're not all like that. And then when moving forwards, you see it's going to come out from the magazine tube. Well, where is it? And pick up the round. Why didn't I pick up the round? Don't call me a liar. What's going on here? Is that locked? That's locked. All right, there it is. I don't know what happened there. You know, some of them, it doesn't really work too well when you do it. So it's not meant to be loaded this way. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be like some kind of like sniper weapon that you load so quiet. It's almost like it has to go like that to pick up the round. You know what I mean? Sort of. There's the round. Oh, I didn't close it all the way when I did that. That's why. So this one, it seems like it's really important that if it doesn't pick up, if you don't pick it up on the way back, repeatedly coming back is not going to help. You have to lock it back up forward again. Now we're going all right. And look at the lockup. Look at how the lockup is in the rear. Watch. The lockup is going to be in the rear. See it? There it is right there. You gotta love it. It's smooth as silk, this guy. So, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinion, this T.C. Johnson, he really came into his own here. He did awesome. He did an awesome job with this one. This was no Widowmaker. This is actually, would go down in history as one of the smoothest loading, most awesome functioning of these 22s. Let's take it down. Let's take it down a notch, baby. Now this one is very tight. Let me see. And no, it's going to need a little persuasion. Don't be afraid. Okay. I think I was hitting it the wrong way. Nothing that a block of wood won't cure. You do absolutely no damage with a block of wood. This one I think was so new, or whoever had it just so seldomly took it apart, that it's like that. It's very, very stiff to put together and to take apart. So here's the hammer arrangement. Here is that lifter that you saw. This is the T-slot arrangement. I don't know exactly what constitutes a T-slot. And here's the bolt. These bolts, you fiddle around with this, you lift it up from the rear here like that, and that's how you get it out. But it's a pain in the neck. This one I can't just pull out immediately. Not incredibly hard to get out, but not incredibly easy. And then putting this guy back together. again, let's see what's the best way to do this. So to do this is to let that hang. This has to lock. It won't lock. Let's see. You slide it more forwards than lifting it up into place. You have to kind of just push forwards. There we go. So it goes back together a little bit easier. But then you see, you never want to leave a gap like that. You always want to make sure you seal these gaps. Now, never grab these things and bang the buttstock on the ground to close the action, to close it up. Don't do that, because you will crack the buttstock. I promise you. You will. Just a couple of hammer taps there. No hammer taps. Just a piece of wood, a piece of soft wood. Don't use a piece of wood with screws in it. Use your head. Now this thing has a cross bolt safety, and it's friggin' awesome. I went to shoot with my buddy, and this is the one he picked out that he liked the best. So that should say something. You might be looking at the pinnacle right here. Look at that front sight, how awesome that is. There's some kind of bead up on there. See that? Something that's jumping out at you. It's a freaking Browning night sight. Now, you see, we're moving into a more modern, because this thing is 50s, 54. So the, pistol grip here, instead of the straight stock, Oh, what a gorgeous rifle. Let's see what the scrolling says on here. I noticed it's tough to focus, but if I zoom, then this writing becomes much easier to read. Winchester Model 61, short, long, or long rifle. Winchester trademark, made in USA, no patents. You always have these two Winchester marks on the top like that. Isn't it beautiful? And there's serial numbers here that match from the trigger guard to the receiver part. And that's a wrap. That's a wrap. What else could I say about the Winchester Model 61? Is it slam fire? I always forget to check each one of these. We should be checking whether it's slam fire or not. Let's pull the trigger. Let's just be incredibly safety conscious and do a check anyway. Let's pull the trigger. Let's cycle the action. Let's see if the hammer drops. Yes, it does. Slam fire, baby. So you could just hold the trigger down and just pump and be like bang, bang, bang. Everybody loves to do that. Don't know why. It's inaccurate. It serves no purpose for the 22, but it certainly puts a smile on anybody's face that does it. They just love that they do that. They don't all do that, but this one does that. Oh, and one funny thing is somebody wrote Ella. Somebody electro-penciled Ella over here. E-L-L-A. Huh. Of a beautiful rifle like this, had an electro-penciled name right here. Ella. I gotta look at that again and see if that's exactly what it says, but I didn't even notice it. The buddy that loved this rifle pointed it out. And I was like, what? Where? I didn't see that. And there it is. So that's the story, everybody. What am I going to put for next time? Somebody asked for a Marlin Model 39A. That's the lever action 22. Believe it or not, I don't have one of those. So somebody finally came up with one that I do not have. I've been eyeing them. Might have one by the time I'm at the end of doing these 22, so it might actually be towards the end, because I do want one of those, but sorry, whoever that is. I think he posted it on my Marlin 20A video. It must be a Marlin guy. But I do not have one of those, but I do have another Marlin, so don't worry about it. I'm going to feature, it might not be a 39A, but there will be another Marlin on the way. And man, I got some cool ones. So stick with me. Don't hesitate to shout one out if you know another one. But I do have a few more. We're not done yet. We are not done yet. And like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me if I made a mistake about this one. If you do some research and you find out something that I should have said, put it in the comments. This is all, for me, this is all about information. I watch some of my older videos and I see that I made like terrible, horrible mistakes, and I don't want to take the videos down or redo them, because I'm like, this whole thing is a learning experience. No matter how much research you do on one of these, you research it for 20 years, post a video, and then a year later you're going to only know more. You're going to learn that something that you thought was true isn't. And this is what it is. We all work together to keep information going out there about these to, anyone that's interested. So if you see something I said wrong, or you find out some piece of research that could make this video better and the information on the Model 61 better. I noticed that the bolt action rifle that I did, this guy happens to still be laying here. This Winchester Model 57 that I did the video on just recently. There's no video for a Winchester Model 57 up there. Or a 56. It's a 56 and a 57 kind of run together. They're like the same. There's nothing up there on YouTube. So it feels kind of cool to be the guy to put up. If somebody really wants to know about that rifle and they look on YouTube, that they're going to see me. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's what it's all about. All right, sorry, I had to splice in here for a second because I forgot I had another page here. So, you know what I said before, that it had a round barrel, and I'll get to that later. Well, just to cover this quick, I felt like I didn't want to do the whole video again, but this information is something that I don't want to miss. These, like all the others, they were chambered in, well, not like all the others, like most of the others, they're chambered in short, long, or long rifle. Unless they're very early, they're not chambered in like short only or stuff like that, long rifle only. But this one, it's unique in that most of them were like this one, short, long, and long rifle. But they had some that you could, if you wanted to order it, you could get it short only, long rifle only, or 22 WRF. I think that stands for Winchester Rimfire. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have anything chambered in that. I don't even know anything about that caliber. Never really read much on it. So if I talk about WRF or WMR, Winchester Magnum Rimfire, and I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm just reading it off the page. But the ones that were short only, long rifle only, or 22 WRF, which I assume is Winchester Rimfire, those came octagon barreled. They're not very common. So if you see one that's octagon barreled, if you don't want to have one, then 22 WRF, like, be careful, because it could very well be chambered in that. Also, in the last few years of its existence, so that's somewhere between 60 and 63, let's say, the last 2 years, 3 years, you can buy these chambered in WMR, Winchester Magnum Rimfire, which, from what I hear and what I'm reading when I research this one, was very popular then and is still very popular now. So that's a big deal, that I haven't seen any of these like vintage 22s that are chambered in WMR, Winchester Magnum Rimfire. So if that's a concern, if that's like a favorite caliber of yours, this is your guy. If you poke around, you'll find one like that. They're rare to be chambered in that, but you can find them, So there were octagon barreled ones, but you do have to watch what they're chambered in. If you're not happy, if you wouldn't be happy with one that just fires shorts, then be careful when you're getting it. You know what I mean? Just make sure. I don't know if they have octagon barreled ones that are chambered in all three. I'm really not sure. Like what I was reading was kind of conflicting. Some things said yes, some things said no. I think it's that they were like these legacy editions that were made in like short only, and those came with the octagon barrel, stuff like that. So I think they had to run together. If you got a single chambering, you got the octagon barrel. And if you want the WMR, I'm not sure if that came with the octagon barrel or not. Would have to do further research to find out, but I thought that was an interesting part of this gun. It might have had something to do, or a lot to do, with its popularity, is that there were some options for these different Winchester 22s that the other rifles didn't have, ammo options, So that's it. Listen, everybody, I just wanted to chuck that in there. I hope that didn't upset the flow of the video. Have a nice evening, and I'll see you all soon.